Welcome to episode 19 of the Chi-Town Shoot Wrestling Podcast. I'm Marcin, and joining me in the squared circle today are Chris, David, and Andres. We're coming at you from the heart of the wrestling world, Chicago, Illinois, bringing you the latest news, hottest takes, and all things WWE and AEW. We also want to hear from you. Send us your thoughts, questions, and wildest predictions to chitownshootpodcast at gmail.com, and we'll tackle your comments in the Chi-Town Shoot mailbag. Without further ado, let's get into it. And as always, how is everybody doing today on this fine Sunday evening?
Did a lot of shopping. Did some grocery shopping the other day. Then we kind of did some fun shopping today. Marshalls.
Like for Halloween stuff, or just like see what's out there?
Halloween stuff. We went to Marshalls because she saw some TikTok thing, Halloween shirts. But then I saw these
by the algorithm.
Fucking Simpsons ass sleeper pants. Had to buy them. Then I got this shirt. $10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I went to there was a friend at when I worked at Megavisions. They had a wedding on Friday the 13th, and then flew out to Pittsburgh. So it was there for like 3.5 days or so. It was pretty cool. Never been to Pittsburgh. It almost feels a little bit like Portland in a certain sense, and all like the houses are together and very narrow because I guess older town. And yeah, really cool. It was all, it wasn't Friday the 13th horror movie themed, but there were like scary or Halloween movies that were basically every table was its own like Halloween movie. And I was saying before the recording that they had this book at the entrance from Beetlejuice instead of the book of the recently deceased. It was the recently wedded, I think it was. Then you can like write your messages in there and whatever. It was like at this hotel that had like a bar rooftop at the top, and they did their reception and ceremony there. So that was pretty cool. And they did pop punk instead of traditional wedding music. So I thought that was interesting because they're both big fans of pop punk bands and ska.
Get it.
Yeah, a lot of skanking.
My week is pretty like busy though. I was moving yesterday stuff to the new place.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
It's going good. Got a good system, so like every weekend I'll load up the car, I'll drop stuff off, come back. Sometimes do it twice, but lately I've just been doing it once. And then I had a smaller couch I got rid of, so that was kind of rough because it was really hot. But
yeah.
So I've just been pretty much just like vegetating after that.
Well, let me know. My offer still stands if you need more help moving stuff,
okay.
like your stuff.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Are you further now?
Like 15 more minutes. Yeah, like I'm trying to see from you. Yeah, like pretty much further now. A little bit more. Not much further, but just a little bit. Yeah.
Cool.
The highway's right there.
And you're moving, you'll be fully moved out at the end of September then, basically?
Yeah, the 30th is my official last day here.
Great. Well, hopefully you have some kind of a housewarming thing or something. Definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, I could do something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. What about you, David? What's new with you?
Nothing.
Same old.
Some yard work and clean the garage.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. And obviously, we had a bunch of wrestling news that happened in the past week or so. SmackDown and Raw both had their wrestling premieres, and they both had some pretty interesting segments. Roman Reigns, man, I saw those segments. That guy again proves why he's like on another level. With those crowd reactions, that was crazy. It was also pretty good to see on SmackDown all of those SmackDown alums, including Vicky Guerrero and Teddy Long, Ron Simmons.
Was it an anniversary show?
No, it was the debut of SmackDown on USA Network because their deal with Fox ended. So it's also the season premiere. I feel like they move this season premiere every year, like, but
No,
maybe,
it's
yeah,
always around football.
yeah. So it's like September-ish usually after SummerSlam, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Raw had Bret Hart, and then SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown had a WWE Championship steel cage match, so
Undertaker.
that was pretty sick. I don't know. Undertaker
Yeah.
didn't make a debut, or did it make an appearance? Right? No.
No.
Yeah.
Was
But
Teddy
they had a really
Long.
good main event. Really good main event. It looks like, I guess, the tension between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns is back in the forefront, I think, for the next couple of PLEs, if not all the way to WrestleMania. So we'll see where that
Ooh.
turns out. Honestly, I don't know where it's gonna head. It clearly Bloodline involved. I think the Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano, it looks like they're trying to feud with the Bloodline for the tag titles, but we'll see. But Roman Reigns, I'm also glad that they kept him as his character instead of trying to appeal to like make it like shift him. Like, he is a baby face, but they're not trying to like shift his personality. Like, he's still retaining Roman Reigns. And I feel like if this was Vince McMahon, it would have been like, an attempt to make him more babyface-ish. So I appreciate the maintenance of the tribal chief, because yeah, if you guys haven't seen that stuff, and you listeners at home, that was he had a really good segment. And Cody Rhodes, I feel like this could also lead to like, if they wanted to, you could easily see where a heel turn can come from too, because
Yeah.
you could feel some kind of like jealousy or something going there, because there's a lot you can draw from based on the crowd and stuff. But yeah, so there was this one piece of news that has been kind of floating around. There's been updates in this past week, and more rumors and things circling, but there's nothing been completely solid. But the phrase AEW Shockwave has been kind of permeating through wrestling dirt sheets and news outlets. And Dave Meltzer mentioned something, but he said
That's
a lot of
right.
things without really saying anything. And basically, Tony Khan also in his press conference discussed the future of AEW and how the media rights deals were going. And in a recent report, they filed for that trademark called AEW Shockwave. Tony Khan addressed it, and Fightful reported that AEW filed for this new trademark. It also mentioned that the trademark was filed for the purposes of entertainment in the nature of wrestling contests, which could mean many things. It could mean PLE. It could mean new show. It could mean, I don't even know, documentary, TV special.
Be like a tough enough.
Sure, it could be a tough enough. Well, I'll ask this at the end, but during the media scrum after All Out, Corey Lee, who works for the Wrestling Observer, asked Tony Khan about the trademark filing, and Tony Khan mentioned the promotion is set to create a shockwave in the wrestling business, so I guess he used that keyword in there. He also mentioned the success that his company has seen in the past few weeks, and Tony Khan, and I quote, said, "I think it would be safe to say that AEW is set to create a shockwave throughout all professional wrestling, and I think people tonight are going to be talking about what they saw at All Out, which happened a week or two ago, which was a huge business success for us. Did really, really well here at the Now Arena. Big sellout show, and also really well on pay-per-view. And I think it bodes really well and creates a lot of anticipation for what's going to happen," which happened on Dynamite, and we can talk about that as well. "And we'll continue to send that shockwave through the world of professional wrestling here in AEW." So pretty vague. And there were also recent reports about a potential deal between Tony Khan and Fox, because now Fox has a wrestling ring-shaped sized hole in their wrestling schedule, as SmackDown's deal basically went up, and USA is now in charge of SmackDown. So there were talks and reports of AEW Shockwave potentially being a 1 hour wrestling show on FS1, which is a channel subsidiary of the Fox media conglomerate. FS1, I don't remember. I don't know what popular programming is on there, but I do know it is a channel. So that is interesting. So it's not very clear. And Dave Meltzer mentioned that it might be a show that's 1 hour, but he also kept it vague. So I think what we can do is just leave it into, just turn it into like a speculative segment. And I want you to guys tell me what you think Shockwave is and where do you think this trademark is headed.
Who's going first? Me? Guess I'm
You
talking.
said something.
Yeah, you.
Go.
I'm actually hoping it's some kind of like a developmental show, like an NXT or something. I think they can benefit from like a show like that, because if this means that they get rid of Rampage, which is also on Friday, I imagine Shockwave would be this new Friday show for them. I'm hoping it's some kind of like a developmental show. And then Collision and Dynamite would be their Raw, SmackDown, I guess. So hopefully it's that.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I was throwing around some like ideas of maybe Collision and some Dynamite being on TBS and TNT, and then maybe Shockwave is like a HBO Max show, like an hour programming on their streaming service. Maybe that's a possibility, since that is all under that umbrella.
Well,
So
what's the Fox thing though?
well, again, that's an idea that they threw out there. So we don't know necessarily if it's an actual thing.
Oh,
There were
okay.
talks about it. They say rumors, but like we hear like rumors all the time. So there's a possibility there might be something with Fox, but there's nothing solidified yet. So it could be, and it could be a whole lot of nothing about it. I mean, the other thing that just kind of like worries me, and we've already talked about it, like with the introduction of Collision, when they debuted that, when they already had Rampage. So now, if we're following that logic of like, oh, this is another show, that is a fourth show that Tony Khan has to be in charge of in terms of creative. And a lot of people already say that he's spread thin creatively because he does so many things. Like he's trying to be like a Vince McMahon, but he also owns like a football, like European football team and a American football team.
All types of football.
Yeah, all types of
Yeah.
football, European and American. So I don't know, like I get stressed out like balancing like a bunch of things, let alone like major franchises and shows across different TV channels and and talent and all that stuff. Like I don't even know how he does it besides people saying
That's obvious.
the jokes about the obvious stuff with the coffee and things stronger than coffee. Let's just say that. But yeah, what about you,
every
David?
day.
What do you think it's going to be, David? Is this is this a nothing burger, or where do you think this is heading?
I think it's a fourth show. I would like it to be like something that's more for like undercard and like the trios, like maybe highlight the trios division a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Maybe it's like WWE Speed Show, something on X,
A little faster.
or it's on Truth Social. That'll be their niche.
Only a minute and a half.
I was gonna say it's 33 minutes.
Yeah.
Almost faster than that.
30 seconds only,
All right.
and a 10-second ad. Do you guys think that Rampage would exist? Because I feel like that is one thing that I feel like they could easily just cut off if their intention is to have this new show. Or do you feel like he's like, you know what? No, I want all of these shows happening without any gutting.
Well, here's my
What's the
take.
weakest show? Isn't Collision the weakest show?
Rampage is the weakest show. Collision, Collision, they're basically Rampage existed, and then Collision was created in response to apparently the CM Punk issues. I don't know if that's necessarily entirely true, but it sounded like it was a way to divide them. Then CM Punk left, and they're like, well, we still have Collision. So they treated that as like their B show. And then they still had Rampage. And yeah, so.
Well, I saw an advertisement for the Thanksgiving Eve show that they do at Wintrust, and usually they were doing the taping of Rampage after Dynamite, but it was saying they were doing Dynamite and Collision on that day. So that
could be that because it is a holiday week, so maybe they're taping Collision all at once,
but not Rampage.
I guess that's true.
Wasn't advertised.
It might be moved around programming wise because of like whatever Turner's got going on, but also that's Survivor Series weekend.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to compete with that shit.
Yeah, and Collision's already kind of done it a couple of times where they've changed their time to like, was it SummerSlam when they went early?
Yeah, with Collision.
Yeah.
And then Triple H was like, let's start our pre-show at the same time too. So they couldn't push it up any higher. So they're like, well, guess we'll just compete with the pre-show.
They won't even put any matches.
Yeah.
We'll just be on.
I mean, I feel like that takes some cojones too. They're like, we're still going to beat you. We're not going to have matches. So we're just going to have people talking at a table about matches and see if that beats your wrestling show.
Here's the real question. Are we going to keep tradition and go to Thanksgiving Eve?
We'll see. If tickets are cheap, I don't mind.
I like 30 or 40.
It just depends how much it is. $20, sure. 25, why not? Is that Wintrust?
Yeah.
Are tickets on sale yet, or is that still?
We probably gotta leave even earlier this time because it's gonna be the day before Thanksgiving, so everybody's gonna be leaving town.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, the first time wasn't as bad as the last time.
That's true. Maybe there'll be even less people this year. It's the law of diminishing returns. So, guess we'll see. We'll talk about it in the private chat, but I'm interested. But yeah, any other thoughts? Like, what do you guys think about Shockwave? Andres, do you feel like it's a show? An NXT type show? Is it a PLE? Maybe it's not even like a wrestling show.
No, I don't think so.
Right, it's not. It's like their Total Divas thing. No, I don't know. Maybe though. Yeah, I want to say it's another show, an extension of another show, but it's like at the same time, like why? I don't know. But they're putting a lot behind it, saying it's gonna shock, the Shockwave. So I don't know. I feel like it's more than what it's probably gonna be. At least that's what they're anticipating.
And I feel like it's just like with Tony Khan and his big like language. He's done this, like, this is a similar pattern to other announcements that he's made, and it ends up being like tickets are now on sale for All In, 2025. Like, people are thinking, and again, it's the fault of us and people in general, where we're basically creating our own ideas in our head and then get disappointed because it's literally just like, the location of the next All In
Pre-sale
in Texas. Yeah, pre-sale. So we'll see. But Shockwave is there. There's either a lot of people who are BSing, which is completely a possibility based on all these dirt sheets. I feel like Meltzer, there's a lot that I have issues with him, but I do think that there are some connections that he does have where he can pull a nugget of truth to it. So wrestling show, at the bare minimum, if that's what he's hearing, I don't see that as not being true. So,
well, trademark. Well, it's a trademark, right? So it's only just the name.
It is. Yes. It's a trademark, and that definition that I mentioned about it being entertainment in the nature of wrestling contests. So that sounds like a wrestling show,
right?
Your new cologne.
Yeah.
Yes. They heard our show from the other week about Nitro. They're like, let's just do Shockwave. I mean, that's a cool show name, I gotta say. But now you're really giving me WCW vibes with thunder and you're involving something with lightning and weather,
These electric type.
electricity. So hey, why not? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I foresee it being an hour show, but again, I stand by that. There's a lot of wrestling, and I do think that you keep spreading yourself thin, you'll continue to have less capital with your fans in terms of like how much are they willing to shell out for tickets when there are so many shows that they have the ability to attend, and there will be folks who won't go to your other things. Like you're adding more stuff to people's like schedules and plates in the buffet, and there will be a eventually like, you know, like shows that we already see and talk about, people complain about low attendance and stuff. So adding another show to give people more options to not attend another show versus another show, I think is a real thing.
I think somebody asked him during the scrum, what's the percentage of us knowing more about it within the month or within the next month or something. I think he said like 90% or something.
Or the
Shockwave.
TV deal?
Yeah,
the
TV deal. I think you're right. It is TV deal. Yeah, the TV
deal. Because he's been talking about that. I mean, they've been talking about this deal for months.
The summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably some correlation with that Shockwave. That's my take. And the deal.
I think so. I mean, I do think it is a good idea to stick to a studio for certain shows. You can have Dynamite be the touring show, and you can attach, I guess, Rampage or maybe even Shockwave. Hell, get rid of Rampage, attach Shockwave if they think they need like a branding refresh and start from scratch. Get a creative team of people. I know that it's his baby and stuff, and he wants to be in charge of things, but I do honestly think that, you know, you will be creatively bankrupt if you keep spreading yourself that thin, and that no one is superhuman, you know. So more to come. But our main discussion for this evening is, speaking of shocking, wrestling's most shocking betrayals. And betrayals are a common, tried and true element in professional wrestling because, as we all know, it's scripted, it's a drama, and with drama comes breakups, betrayals, backstabbings, call it what you will. And these really catapult certain people to the next level, whether it's breaking up from a team or taking a specific feud or storyline and dialing it to 11 and making it even more interesting and elevating it even further. So I wanted to just talk about wrestling betrayals and what you guys feel like are some of the most compelling and interesting betrayals that you've witnessed or even read about, because there are shows that I obviously haven't seen and people have talked about forever, like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. And you mentioned the barbershop and going through that, they'll know what you're talking about. That's not something I mean, I was alive, but I was like, you know, sucking on my thumb and I wasn't, you know, watching it. But we all know about that specific betrayal and what it did for Shawn Michaels in his career. But what do you, I guess I want to go around the table here and just let's throw out some betrayals that you thought were really interesting in certain feuds, and let's just kind of talk about it, because I feel like there are so many that we can discuss. But I guess I can start, and I want to start with the Shawn Michaels versus Triple H feud that took place in the early 2000s. It's 2002. It should be, because I know Triple H or Shawn Michaels came back. And they had this segment with Triple H where they were basically going to reunite DX. Well, Shawn Michaels was initially in NWO, wasn't he? For like a really small portion of
an NWO, and then it fell apart.
Yeah.
Be like 01.
I think it was 02 because Shawn Michaels was.
It was when Raw got its rebrand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
because Shawn Michaels did he broke his back in 98, and then he was kind of going in and out. Like he was still in wrestling technically. Like he was commissioner, special referee, but he was he had a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol and pills. And 2002 was kind of like his born again rebirth. I don't want to say era because wasn't a branding thing for him. Like he actually felt like he was born again. And basically from 2002 all the way up into his retirement was probably the best of his career, if we're being honest. But yeah, 2002, he basically had the feud with Triple H where they initially wanted to reunite with DX, and then Triple H turns on him, and that turns into its own feud, which I don't think it culminated in SummerSlam 2002 because they had, I think, other ones in Armageddon, and they also had matches involving, other people like WrestleMania 20 in that triple threat match. And it's been kind of like an on and off thing, but that one was very, those are one of the ones that stuck out to me, especially as someone who was a big fan of Shawn Michaels and his career. When we started watching back in 06, again, I was very into, I watched his documentaries. I was all about the Bret Hart, DVDs and like just that whole era I was very interested in. But yeah, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, of course, have had a long storied career. They didn't need, obviously, this isn't a Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels situation, but this was a really good story that I felt like they did a great job with, and their chemistry is undeniable. DX obviously is a big thing that kind of helped elevate it, and Triple H was the right person to kind of get Shawn Michaels back into that feeling of being the showstopper and the heartbreak kid. Like if there was somebody who can really get Shawn Michaels out of his kind of rust and really tell a story, I think Triple H is the best person to do it. But what do you guys remember about that specific feud, and if you guys have any thoughts, or did you like it or not like it? Do you even remember it?
Oh, that feud made me so mad.
Why?
Yeah.
That feud made me so mad. So like when DX was around with Shawn Michaels, I wasn't watching wrestling yet, and I started watching, like, seeing DX in the McMahon Helmsley era.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like looking back, or like even when they played like old DX stuff, I thought it was like so much cooler. But it's probably just because I didn't see it myself. But I thought it was so much cooler. And then like Shawn Michaels retired, and like I knew that, and then he came back, and I thought I was gonna actually see it. And then Shawn Michaels gets beat up in a parking lot.
Yep. The whodunits.
Yeah, and then the next week it ends up being Triple H, and like I remember being like 9 years old and like going to bed pissed.
That
Like,
mother, you're like Homer with his angry eyes looking up.
yeah. I remember like going to bed pissed. Like I remember like turning off the TV aggressively and everything.
Just your eyes showing
Like,
angry as fuck.
I remember being like legit like fucking heated.
Hey, that's amazing to get that kind of reception, honestly.
That's what wrestling's about.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Fucking 9-year-old me, like just like
Shit, I remember the brown pants, and I remember the bob haircut. That's what I
Oh,
remember.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
so
That
bad.
was Elimination Chamber, I think, Survivor Series. I think it was that same year, right? That's when he won the World Heavyweight Championship for like a month.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
he
he won
lost
it
it
at
to
Survivor Series.
Triple H at Armageddon, right?
no.
Yeah, that was wild. And Triple H, like, when they like allowed bleeding, like that man like also was like, I felt like he was like a Ric Flair of like bleeding all over the place, especially like during like that time. I remember seeing some of those matches that they were doing. I mean,
Yeah.
bananas. Like his face looked like he painted it or something, you know. Those were
Crimson
really
Mask.
hardcore matches. I mean, same with Shawn Michaels too. Like I was like, did you guys like pop an artery or something?
Fucking
in your
right,
head?
right on top of that motherfucker. That shit was like boom, boom, boom.
That was hardcore stuff. But yeah, Andres, do you remember that specific feud with Shawn Michaels and Triple H or that era?
I was, yeah, no, I was actively watching wrestling at that point. Yeah, I do remember that specifically watching that Raw, and they both came out in DX shirts, and like they were doing their whole montage, and then Triple H like cutting it short and then turning to Shawn and giving him a pedigree. Yeah, I actually remember screaming, like freaking out, like in excitement when you heard a DX theme hit. And then I even like
Yeah.
for some reason I actually like screamed at my mom to like come in and watch with me. And she was like, you know, she was the only person there. Like, look at this, oh my god! And so she's like, what? And she like sat down, like, oh, okay. And then that happened, and then
That's
she's like,
nice,
wait, what is
son.
this? I'm like, but yeah, no, I do remember seeing that, and I was like, that really sucks. Like, what? I think like David, I went to bed mad if I remember correctly.
So bad.
God.
Yeah, I remember like I used to watch The Simpsons going to bed after Raw because Raw would end at 10 and The Simpsons would be on at 10. And I remember like I couldn't even like focus. Like I was so mad watching The Simpsons.
Honestly,
yeah, I
if
do
you also
remember.
see that segment, like you feel something's off because when they're doing like the fireworks, the 1X had like this half-assed like firework thing. It went like pew, like the Owen did Foley, like it just didn't even look right when they were doing the fireworks. I was like, interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or not, or they just had a bad pyro guy. But yeah, interesting creative choice there. But yeah, and then they basically reunited 4 years later in 2006, and that was like a for real DX reunion. And I remember that happening and that being like people pop for that. And I know some people were upset because they were expecting a certain kind of DX, and Shawn Michaels was not that kind of person anymore. Like they weren't gonna do. He basically gave all like the DX jokes to Triple H with like I remember like the mustard squeezing or mayo. It might have even like a mayo bottle, and Candice Michelle was there.
They still pulled it off though. It was still very good, I thought. Like yeah, they're not the generation like X, like how they were, but like they still did really like good content. I felt like the writing was good. It was still really funny, you know.
I mean, I kicked. What was his name? I kicked Stan. Yeah, like that lives forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing that they didn't like with that specific feud, like I didn't mind it because I didn't like see DX in their prime when I was younger. So seeing this made me happy, but I know a lot of people complain because they basically like the Spirit Squad was a new group and they basically were just jobbers to Shawn Michaels and Triple H. And Dolph Ziggler was in there. There was who else was the other person that also had a bit of a career for a little bit? Like he was a single star. Kenny? Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, Kenny. Didn't he have like blue
Kenny
pants?
Yeah. So he kind of lasted for a couple of years and then
Mikey
went off the face of the planet, or maybe went into the indies. But what other who wants to go next? Well, in terms of betrayals, because it doesn't have to just be WWE. Because I also mentioned AEW before the show, and obviously WCW. That's a big one with Hogan. Do you want to talk about that one?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Go ahead, talk about it.
I mean, that's probably one of the biggest betrayals, I think. The ultimate babyface is now like, fuck you, I did it for the money, brother. Like, that must have been I can't even fathom like what people were. I mean, people were throwing shit in the ring in that specific segment. So I can only imagine people who were like diehard Hogan fans, like how they were personally feeling when they saw that. Like imagine somebody who got a Hogan tattoo and they're like, he's my hero. I'm eating my vitamins. I'm saying my prayers. And he said, Hawk, get out of here. New
Yeah, having a
World
Hulkamania
Order.
tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah, that must have been crazy. Like just trying to get into the mindset of just like that moment where he's just like, this is the new world order of wrestling, brother.
And that was
Yeah.
around the time when they were like into, I mean, like message boards and stuff were talking about like New World Order, and George H.W. Bush was talking about it a couple of years before that when he was president, and that's where people were going off the conspiracy theories of the NWO. So I feel like that was a little bit of where that got inspired from. But I mean, yeah, Hulk Hogan, that's like long-term buildup of I want to use that word capital again, but like yeah, with the fans of like babyface, superhero, never expected this kind of person to turn heel. And even Hulk Hogan wasn't necessarily up for it. Like they thought he might have just like changed his mind right up to
Doesn't
that
work
segment.
for me, brother.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you know what? I want to
Yeah.
keep my millions of dollars that I'm making. And wouldn't you know it, he started becoming more popular into his 40s, becoming a big heel and basically carrying WCW through the mid 90s. I mean, to arguably the death of WCW.
And through the mud.
So, I mean, it was good and bad. But again, we already talked about this in the previous thing with WCW. But let's stick to betrayals and revolving around betrayals there. So yeah, Hogan is a really good one. I think back on the one I didn't put in the document is the Evolution stable and the number of betrayals actually that happened in that stable, which involved Randy Orton and Batista. One was more successful than the other, I would say, in terms of a babyface turn that resulted out of it. In the form of Batista. But Randy Orton, I mean, he also got the opportunity to be champion, and they had that whole feud and program with Randy Orton. So those two guys really benefited from the betrayal angle. And I think Batista was basically the big SmackDown superstar after that. Like he was one of those anchors in SmackDown with Undertaker and, well, I mean, I guess honestly, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and all those folks who were on SmackDown at that time. I think he was a really big part of that. But what did you guys think of the Evolution storyline with Randy Orton and Batista? Did you guys see that coming? Like, if you saw that segment before and didn't know like what was happening, were you expecting Batista to betray, or not Batista to betray? Well, I guess yes.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, the thumbs up, thumbs down, because they said you can be champion here, beat JBL, and I'll be champion on Raw, and then basically we can run this business together.
That
They're like, stupid Dave, he's a big dummy. He's just
Big dumb
pussy."
meathead.
shut up, put that chain back on. Yeah,
Didn't they have like an obvious like segment in the backstage where like they wasn't like Rick and Triple H talking? And I swear I thought there was like a segment where Batista was overhearing them too.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Like
it would have
they
been.
were-
It would have been funnier and would have been better if that they don't include those kinds of things. Like you don't have to spell out everything and be like super cartoonish. Ha ha ha! We sure showed that guy talking super loud, as if the guy can't overhear you when you guys all share a locker room.
I mean, that specific era will always be simultaneous with SmackDown 06 story mode, I think, with me. Because you go through that
The
bit.
game.
Yeah. You go through that betrayal and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know
that's
that.
that's how I'll always remember that feud.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I really enjoyed the Evolution, and those two betrayals specifically really
Evolution.
catapulted Batista and Orton.
of Evolution.
What was that?
The evolution of Evolution.
Yeah, the evolution of evolution, exactly.
And another Motorhead song. Like, what's that dude on TikTok or Instagram who be singing these wrestling themes? Like, he should do the Evolution theme if he hasn't already.
How many has he done so far?
Evolution is a way to be. Had that vibrato on that shit. Hell yeah.
Isn't it evolution is a mystery?
Whatever.
That's what I thought too.
He just he just adds this like fucking vibrato like he's an opera singer.
No,
Yeah.
Time to play the game. They always
That's what makes it good.
Yeah, they got that little dolphin everybody keeps posting from some anime or something.
Yeah. What about like recent, or how about AEW betrayals? Because they've had their fair share of people turning on each other. Is there one that kind of sticks out to you guys? Recent or beginning of?
That Mox one that just happened.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the one that sticks out the most. The grocery bag, the produce
Well, let's
bag.
talk about that because I didn't really get a good chance to see. I've seen the pictures of like the grocery bag over Brian's head.
Because Christian came out and I was like, he's saving. We were like, Mox is saving him. And then,
Yep.
then
Oh yeah.
10 seconds later, we're like, he's not saving him.
No!
It's not how you save him, Mox.
No. Holding Yuta back like a child.
Yeah. Mox, that's not how you save somebody.
I
So
mean,
is Yuta on Brian Danielson's side?
Yeah. Yep.
Probably. He's on.
He did a
Or he's
little.
also going to betray him.
He did a pretty good promo on Collision last night, actually. Just being in this very just depressive kind of not making eye contact with the interviewer, looking down, kind of being super short, a lot of just
Yuta?
pausing.
Did Moxley say anything besides like vague reasons why he did it? Like
He said he's weak, that he's not the kind of person that would fulfill what they're trying to actually do with Blackpool Combat Club. Like he's just a guy or whatever. Like he put him over, but then he said he's too nice. He can't be able to do. So get rid of him. Whatever
does he even
it
mean by
is.
that?
Well, I mean
Yeah.
that's the continuation. We don't know why yet, but guess we'll find out.
Yeah, his storyline's been more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, that's good. I mean, that's a good one. I mean, the other one that I think AEW has done the best so far in the past 2 years is the Mariah May and Tony Storm story, and that lasted for like a year, and culminated in All In.
Oh, he got him. He got him.
Culminated in All In. I mean, like the betrayal thing with like the bleeding in the shoe, I was like, that was like very visceral, and like she made it look violent. Like it wasn't like, it didn't look like sometimes like when people like get attacked or they do like the punches and stuff, like it feels like wrestling, but what she did felt like an assault for me. like visually it felt like it was like an actual like assault, and I was like, wow, this is making me uncomfortable a little bit. But or maybe it's because like you normally don't see as many women bleeding consistently as the men do, if we're talking about like percentages. You know, so that always, you know, makes gives a little pause, you know.
They did it too really well, especially the angle, because like you just see Mariah May standing over, like holding her in the back of the hair, and then she just
with the
pouring blood,
shoe.
like
Boom.
yeah, it was like it was very good storytelling.
Good shot.
I mean, it also did what they needed to do, which is get Mariah May the championship. I mean, Tony Storm has had it. You think or don't think?
No, I think she deserves it.
Yeah. I mean, where I guess we'll see where that goes. But I mean, yeah, Tony Storm held it for the better part of a year. I don't know if it's an entire year, but yeah, really good. She had a really great run. I thought she had a great series of matches from those pay-per-views that I've seen. and the matches that she's had on Dynamite. But yeah, really, really great. If I had to pick one from AEW, and didn't watch it as long as you guys, but I thought Tony Storm and Mariah May's feud and that betrayal was really well designed. Well, let's see.
Callis and Kenny Omega
as a betrayal.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? What's memorable about it to you?
It's just like Don Callis is just such a good heel. I don't know. I think it's just the way he just goes about doing a lot of these segments and the screwdriver thing and all this craziness.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's why. I mean, I think he's just a good guy to hate, making it memorable.
I will say one that sticks out to me that I put on this list that was in that period where I was kind of on my way out of WWE watching in 2017-ish was that Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho feud relationship. I mean, they were heels, but they were like a duo that people really liked to see, and they had that whole Festival of Friendship segment that they did. They had like
Jericho
the painting
was on the list.
Yeah, where he gave him the list, and then he's like, his name was on there, and then he betrayed him. That was really good. And there was a lot of crap that existed during Raw during that time, so that was like one of the few highlights that I thought was really well done, and probably one of the last things I really enjoyed from Chris Jericho in the next 5 or 6 years or so. But yeah, I mean, in WWE, I mean, he was on his way out for not too long after that. Yeah, hi guys.
Who the hell did he attack yesterday? Oh, it was Orange Cassidy. They got this like streak with like just putting bags over people's heads right now. I think it was Big Bill. Like he's doing like a interview. Orange Cassidy is doing like an interview backstage, and then Big Bill comes from behind, and then Renee's like, "Oh my god!" and he puts like this like backpack over his head, like trying to suffocate his ass, and then Jericho walks through with like a picture or something. And then he just smashes it over his fucking head. He's like, "Thanks, guys," and then walks. That was pretty good.
I didn't see that.
I kind of love it. Like he's trying to make it work. Like it felt kind of forced for a bit, but I think it's just one of those things that if he just commits to the bit, it's one of those things I think people will just catch on because this seems to be the right time now, or like maybe with enough segments, it just like kind of pick up like this psychotic Mr. Rogers or some shit.
Yeah.
I put another one of AEW, and I don't know if you guys can kind of elaborate on it. And it was that MJF Cody Rhodes betrayal at Full Gear in 2019. I don't know if you guys were any of you watching during that time.
I missed Full Gear.
David must have been, but yeah.
I don't really count any of this. Like, I shouldn't say I don't count them, but I don't like think about a lot of the stuff that came from those first like 2-3 years, because a lot of that stuff was like super telegraphed on Dirt Street. Like anything Meltzer was saying was like gonna happen. Like he was like, oh, it's gonna be Jericho versus Adam Page, and Jericho's gonna win. Jericho's gonna be the first champ, and then Jericho was
like it actually happened when he said it. Damn.
Yeah, like there was a couple of things that like that were just like dead fucking giveaways, and I was like, okay, so like that's when I kind of was like,
man, Meltzer really is in Tony Khan's pocket, is he?
I mean, he was. I'm guessing there must have been something that just like he must have got cut off or something, because like I was watching the Observer stuff on YouTube for a bit, and at some point they weren't like writing AEW, so to speak. They were kind of criticizing more, so I was like, oh, they must have like siphoned the cash or something from him.
Interesting. Well,
There's a betrayal I remember very distinctly, and it's funny because we mentioned him so many times, and I think he's probably done the most. Like, well, I think Big Show I think has the record of turning face and heel so many times, but like Triple H, I
Jericho.
think probably
No,
Jerry
it's
Show.
true. Yeah, Big Show has had a ton, but yeah, Triple H, I feel like he is one of the masters of betraying people as well, because
Yeah.
he also has like high profile betrayals, or he doesn't necessarily do the betraying, but he's involved. He's a character that sides with the person who's betraying the other person, and he's
Mhm.
done a lot of that. But
So many times.
what were you thinking when you meant that?
Well, for me, like it like really actually like sucked to watch because I remember like I was a kid firmly getting into wrestling like that same year, and I was like super on it. I was watching Raw. I don't even think SmackDown was like, on TV yet.
Hmm.
Um, I was watching WrestleMania 15, and they were setting up this big rivalry between X Pac and Shane McMahon. So it was kind of like that DX versus the corporation kind of thing going on for a
Oh
while.
yeah.
And then leading up to WrestleMania 15, China had betrayed DX and went with the corporate team.
With
And then like
China.
to China.
Yeah,
And
but
then
China.
what was it? Going into the match in the card, Triple H was facing off with I forgot who he was facing. This is back when he still had like the pants with like the green logo and the three H's on it. Like
Oh yeah.
that was like peak DX for me first. That was like my one of my favorite renditions of them. But like I remember like she basically betrayed the corporation, went back to DX, went like and Triple H won the title, I think, and then the next match, whatever, and then it was X Pac eventually fighting Shane McMahon, and then during that match, Triple H and China came back out, and then they betrayed X Pac, and then I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, what a swerve, dude! Like that one really sucked. I really liked DX a lot. That was like one of my first like biggest favorite like wrestling stables ever,
The swerves on
and like
swerves.
being yeah, it was. They really had everyone fooled, man. Like it was like what the hell, like. Oh, it was really good. It was very good swerve though. I remember that like watching though, like all my heart, like I hated it. I was so pissed. Cause like I said, like I was a kid. I was like maybe like 9 when this happened.
I think with
So
Triple
I
H, one
remember.
of the yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying like that was like the one that actually distinctly like stayed with me.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Triple H, I think one of my favorite ones that involved him was that Stephanie McMahon. I guess it was basically the introduction of the McMahon Helmsley era, but they basically had the whole storyline of how he. I'm not. I feel like I have to be conscious of like avoiding using certain words because I do agree with David that I think it affects our algorithm, like swearing and using terms of violence that I feel like gets picked up and then your video shows up lower. So not S-aid, but I guess he took some pills or something to Stephanie, and they went through a drive-through and got married. And
Got some
the,
McDonald's.
yeah, got some McDonald's and got consummated the marriage and got married. And then realizing that she or Stephanie McMahon was in on it the whole time. I don't know if it was the whole time or when it happened. I don't know if it was like Stockholm syndrome kind of thing, but it seems like it was deliberate, and she basically turned on like Vince and that whole family and joined Triple H, and that was kind of like that introduction to the McMahon Helmsley era. So this must have been like late 90s, late 1999,
She did
early
it when the promo
2000s.
where she said that she did it because like Mr. McMahon had her kidnapped by the Undertaker at
Hmm.
one point, like beforehand. So I think that was like why.
I mean, that's a valid reason.
Yeah,
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 if you
yeah.
get kidnapped by the Undertaker and get strung up on a cross, I feel like
Yeah,
that's an awkward Thanksgiving dinner.
wild. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember like the leather jacket, like it looked so 90s. And yeah, they like raised their hands in the air. And then they had the whole corporate DX.
Yeah.
That was, I thought the way they executed that betrayal was really good because this was also Stephanie McMahon's transformation into like that character everyone love to hate, and like that was her best version, was being like the spoiled bratty princess instead of like when you mentioned like her getting kidnapped by the Undertaker. This was like that was like night and day in terms of her character, where she was like the sweet whatever, she was 17 years old, she looked like she, you know, went to Catholic school or something, and like damsel in distress, and then she morphs into like that character. Like that was masterful.
Oh yeah.
And has been on and off. Like that duo has been in WWE for 20 plus years in storylines.
I will say that made my least favorite version of DX, the corporate DX. But they were great as heels. Like everyone hated them.
Yeah.
But like I especially hated it because I'm like, you guys are not corporate. You guys are like the anti-establishment. But
Yeah. Well, that's what, for me, that's what made it interesting, is because, and I mean, like the name, the Degeneration X, like that, it doesn't really mean much if you're with the people who are part of the corporate structure and you're like business guys. So what your initial meaning was behind DX doesn't exist. But I think that was the point. And I think that's what made it interesting. But yeah, there was another one I wanted to talk with you guys about, and I wasn't really watching it then, but that Stone Cold Steve Austin joining Vince McMahon betrayal. I don't know if it's a betrayal, but it's a heel turn. I guess it's like a betrayal for the fans, because this is the guy who was fighting Vince McMahon for all those years, and that's one of the most popular rivalries that ever existed in wrestling. And then he joins Vince McMahon as this power trip. Do you guys have any like thoughts about that turn, and did you like it?
That's the WrestleMania one, right?
Yeah, I think that's 17.
I watched that WrestleMania like a couple of months later when it got put out on VHS.
Yeah.
I just remember watching that Raw and seeing them come out together the next day, and I was just like confused.
Yeah.
Can't imagine too many people liked it. I mean, what's the general consensus amongst?
I think I feel like they just didn't think it was executed properly. I think this is like the time when he was like getting more, like his character was like paranoid, and it was almost like comedic a little bit too. Yeah. This was like Kurt Angle, when Kurt Angle was involved too, right? Because they were all part of that. So
playing a guitar?
I think there were funny, I think there were funny moments and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Tiny
but
cowboy
Stone Cold actually regrets that part too. He regrets doing that. He said,
Stone Cold?
Yeah, he said, I think in one of his like interviews or documentary he did, he said that he actually wished because I think he had a steel chair or something like that. He said he wished he actually hit Mr. McMahon with it instead to set him up to thinking he was cool with him. But he's like, yeah, really, that just wasn't done too well. I really wish I kind of just stayed more the character I was and just hit him over the head with a chair right there and made him think I was cool with him. But yeah, that's something he did say. He didn't like himself.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like it can work if it's done well. Like Hulk, like I can't use the excuse of like, oh well, he's been feuding with Vince, and like it just doesn't make sense for him to be a bad guy when like Hulk Hogan has been like a good guy, and they made it work with the NWO. But I think there were other moving parts that made it interesting, and it was involving a faction, so I think that there was also a little different. Like it was a transformation of wrestling, and there was a lot of, again, like it was a lot of moving pieces that helped make Hulk Hogan and NWO cool. With Steve Austin, it was kind of like a slow closing of the curtain of the Attitude Era during that time too, into the Ruthless Aggression Era. So I don't know, something about it just didn't click for me.
I trust Earl. That's the biggest betrayal, man. Earl Hebner.
You know what? Yeah, let's talk about that.
A real betrayal. Yeah.
I mean that's as betrayal as it gets. I trust Earl, dog. Yeah,
that's very true.
I mean, Bret Hart's been on the crappy end of the stick. I mean, he trusted Goldberg, got his head kicked in. He trusted Earl.
Yeah, I guess
got-
if you want to stretch that definition to like
so-
real life betrayals.
I mean, betrayed
That's why
by
it's salty all the time.
his professionalism. He was like, "Yeah, I got you, dog," and he's like, "Boom." That's definitely.
To be fair, I mean, yes, it is Goldberg's fault, but it was also like he said he was green and he told people that he was green and he doesn't know what he's doing in the ring, but they kind of like put him out there, you know, didn't have too much proper training. But yeah, I mean, that sucks for Brett. And again, for like that, yeah, again, looking at it, like that second half of like, I got betrayed by the company that I thought was my family. I got betrayed by the referee that I thought was family. I go to another company and then I get kicked in the head and basically have to retire from wrestling because they think it probably also affected his health that led to like his strokes and all that kind of stuff.
Funny,
I mean,
funny
he
thing
made,
about that. Oh, sorry. Go.
no, you go ahead because this might tie into what I was about to say.
Funny thing about the Survivor Series match with Shawn Michaels, he actually said that when Shawn was putting him in the sharpshooter, he was actually doing it wrong, and Shawn actually corrected him. He told him like how to do it correctly. So he's like, "Damn, I told him how to basically do that to me, and then he fired me." I was like, "Oh my god."
He's partaking in his own betrayal. He's like, no, do it
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just saying, like, I guess Brett did have like that small comeback at WrestleMania 26 I think it was in Arizona when he did that whole Hart family versus Vince thing. But that wasn't. It was cool to see because it was like an actual Brett match that I saw live. But it wasn't great. Like it was kind of like a slogfest. It was a lot of like pauses and like smashing him with Vince with a chair. Sitting, I think he actually at one point sat down in the chair to catch his breath. So it was a little rough. If you guys didn't see that
Brett.
match at WrestleMania 26.
Oh yeah, I do remember the chair sitting.
I'll send it to you guys, but I just saw a clip of him. He did a house show too. It was like a tag match. He was-
Wrestling?
yeah, Bret Hart did one.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. But I just saw the clip of it. And he actually was pretty fast. I was like shocked. I was like, it was
Really?
2010. Yeah.
2010. Oh, I
actually-
was gonna say like he looked like he was wobbling on Raw, so I thought he just did a match.
Yeah, no. I just saw the clip of it in 2010, but I was like surprised, like even then, like how fast he was. He was really good.
Yeah. So that's a good betrayal. And again, another thing that led to a renaissance for WWE at the time with the Attitude Era and the Mr. McMahon character. So real life betrayal kind of struck gold for WWE.
Brett screwed Brett.
Yeah.
For Edge and Matt Hardy. That was a real one too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I mean, but that was like more feud. They didn't tag team or anything.
Christian turning on Edge messed me up as a child.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that was a good one.
And seeing him get a one-man concerto for the first time.
Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was a good match or a good series.
I remember there was like a segment in one of the, I think it was in during Invasion or something, and like Edge and Christian's grandma called them, but she only called to talk to Edge, and then like you seen the jealousy in Christian, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna happen.
You can tell
He's getting jealous.
I feel like some wrestlers are doing a better job at it now, but I also would like for them to be a little more subtle with their. I don't want them to telegraph the betrayal as obviously, because sometimes like they do like super obvious facial expressions, and I feel like there's I mean, again, like, and a lot of wrestlers aren't like, you know, they're not going to be Golden Globe winners in movies and stuff, and I understand that, but yeah, I think there are some who really do it really well. There was that one feud that I thought had potential, and they tried it twice, and that was the Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy feud. They did it, I think, in the early 2000s, and then they also did it again in the late 2000s. This is like 2009. This was when Jeff Hardy got his first WWE championship, match and he beat Triple H, which I didn't when I saw that match, I did not expect that happening at all. So that was interesting. And then that was again something similar to what I think we were talking about with like Shawn Michaels, where there were like a series of attacks on him. I mean, I guess it's like a tried and true wrestling book whodunit kind of thing, where I think someone messed with him and his car. And then when he was coming out with the fireworks, like the fireworks were like attacking him. So people assumed like it was somebody who was actually trying to attack him. And then it turns out to be Matt Hardy. And this is like before like the delete stuff. This was like Matt had like the shirt with like the key on it. And I think they moved him to like ECW not long after that. And he was ECW champion. And that thing lasted for like 4 months or so. So that's a betrayal that I thought was interesting, but it didn't pan out in the end. Like it just didn't click. And normally like brother betrayals can work, like Bret Hart, Owen Hart. That was done pretty well from like the series, like the documentaries, like YouTube series that I saw and like the series of matches that I watched. That worked really well in the mid 90s, but this Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy one wasn't that great. I don't know if anyone else saw this. I don't know if you saw it, David, because this was like 2009. So I don't think you were watching then, but.
Nope.
Yeah. Chris, you don't remember that, do you? I said it wasn't that great, so maybe you forgot it too.
There's hints of it, I think. What
I
about
remember it happening.
Oh yeah. Seth and the Shield.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one because it happened when it was like the Shield were like reaching that peak, or they were like just at their peak, and then they decide to have Seth Rollins betray the Shield, which I thought was wild, but also interesting because it was another series of like you had these three guys like in Evolution that basically catapulted all three of them to some form of main event status, with Seth Rollins first, and then they kept trying with Roman Reigns, and it didn't click for him until the Bloodline stuff. But I mean, he was in the main event. People just didn't like him, but he was a main event star.
People liked them when they split.
Yeah,
it was after.
What was that?
Yeah.
Didn't he have like blue eye lenses or some shit?
At one point, yeah, he had blue eye lenses.
And he like was trying to cut a promo, and he like fumbled his lines, and he just like made a face or something.
He messed up some promo, yeah.
And then he went like,
that was after. That was
after.
That was after the Shield broke up.
Yeah.
During his like single.
It wasn't it before the betrayal that Shield actually won their match against Evolution the night before, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had a series of really good trios matches, and one of them involved like Evolution members.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they just beat him, and then the next night
Blue Tista came from.
Blue Tista, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't there also like Red Tista? Didn't he have like different colored underwear?
They did after they started chanting. There's a.
They had switched it out.
I think they could start the Blue Tista chant here.
Yeah,
I
honestly did kind of.
Too. I think it was there.
Yeah, I felt a little bad for Batista, if I'm honest. Like during that period, because it was like him coming back.
And then as soon as they got him out, they're like, okay, guys, Roman next.
Yeah. So. Like I really love like the Batista, like with like the heel Batista with the wheelchair and like the. I mean, it was kind of like Hollywood Rock kind of version, but like he also pulled it off really well. And I gotta say, like Batista is a much better actor than The Rock if we're talking about versatility.
I just watched that M. Night Shyamalan movie with him in it, Knock at the Cabin. That was pretty
is that the one where there was like they did like a lot of like biblical references and that kind of stuff?
Horsemen.
Yeah. Yeah, he was good in that. I mean, he was really good in Dune. He was good in a bunch of things. He was really good in Glass Onion.
Yeah, Knives Out.
Knives Out. If you never saw that one where he was in, he was really good in that. And of course, in Guardians of the Galaxy, like
Oh yeah.
top tier dude.
What was
So, good
his
for him.
his return was at the Rumble, wasn't it? And he
Yes.
won it.
No, he won
Yeah,
that
that's when-
Rumble.
Was
Yeah,
that
he
the
won
Daniel
it.
Bryan year?
That was the Daniel Bryan year, but
That was
they
one
ended
of the
up
years
giving it
they
to him.
wanted Daniel Bryan to win, but
Yeah.
Bryan just lost to Bray Wyatt earlier that night.
Yeah. So it was like a case of like Batista was in the crosshairs. Like people wanted Daniel Bryan, they were like, no, for a little bit, and that just kept building.
And then they gave it to Daniel Bryan, and then he got hurt, so then they had to break up the Shield.
Yeah.
What a crazy ripple effect.
Yeah. I want to mention this one. This wasn't necessary. I don't know if it was. It's not a betrayal, but that heel turn with Mark Henry when he did that retirement speech, like that was really like that. I legitimately thought he was retiring, and like if someone deserved like a Golden Globe or an Emmy for acting, it was in that specific segment. Like he did it really well.
It's what I do.
The Hall of Pain, that was a good run for him. That was like 2011. I didn't watch the Tommaso Ciampa turning on Johnny Gargano feud in 2017. Did any of you guys watch NXT during that period?
No, I kind of stopped watching when they're on top of the card. Not
Yeah,
because of them. Life.
yeah. That like 2017, 18 was just that was the kind of like years when I was just getting a little burnt out from it. Again, it was like just the way the stories and all that kind of stuff, I feel like added to it, and it was also like life and other interests kind of taking over. So unfortunately, I didn't see it either.
MJF Adam Cole.
Oh, there you go. Did you see it coming?
Oh, that
Yeah,
was telegraphed.
miles
That was
away.
telegraphed.
Yeah.
So like for me, that was a case of like not great betrayal. Like the Seth Rollins thing, I was not expecting at all. So like, and with that Adam Cole MJF thing, I feel like a lot of people were expecting it to happen, and they were just waiting for it to for the trigger to finally pull. The one that I mean, this was another recent one with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. But this, I mean, a betrayal. I mean, this was like Sami Zayn, I guess, turning heel, or I mean, turning face at was it Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
Yeah, when Kevin Owens is getting attacked, right? So technically a betrayal, but that was like one of those things where like the crowd adds to it. I mean, that also just turned the entire Bloodline story up to like 12. That whole series of matches and like the stuff involving Sami Zayn, like all of that was like, man, that was like lightning in a bottle. Because that was consistently interesting from week to week and PLE to PLE, leading into WrestleMania. So that was a really good one. And also, I mean, I don't know if it elevated anybody because they were all pretty much main event stars. But it was just a really good showcase for WWE's understanding of storylines and just how they've evolved in the past couple of years on how they tell stories. Yeah, we'll be wrapping up a little bit, but was there any other betrayal that you guys can think of that kind of sticks out in your brain that we didn't mention already?
The Hardy Boys and Michael Hayes. I'm joking. That's not a thing. That was a thing, but like I don't know if anyone remembers that because Michael Hayes was like the original like Hardy Boys manager.
I do remember seeing like, did he also wear like Hardy Boys gear? I was like,
yeah, he had that tight ass
Oh,
the
man.
shirt, like a compression shirt, and then like the cargo pants with the studded belt and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's giving Hello Fellow Kids vibes with that outfit.
How do you do? Vince
And what was his
McMahon's
reason?
betrayal.
What was his reasoning? Huh?
That Vince McMahon's betrayal of the audience from 2014 to 2022.
Oh, in 2014. Why 2014?
All right, maybe
specifically?
2017. I don't know. Just that the shit period.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about betrayal of, I mean, but you know what? I want to be a little objective because I will say there was with Vince McMahon, if you gotta be honest, there was a lot of periods that were just like, what the hell is going on with this character? Because like the definition of WWE style of storytelling, like when people talk about that, they can point out what they mean, and that involves how Vince's creative decisions worked, and that wasn't specific only to 2017 to 2022. 2021, because yeah, I mean, like people from NXT who had a character and then show up and have a completely different name and basically an elimination of like their history as if like nothing happened. Like that happened consistently for like Vince McMahon storytelling for a long time. If you got people coming in from separate promotions, you basically act like nothing ever happened before they showed up to WWE. Storylines that were going somewhere and then they went nowhere, you know, and then they don't mention it again. Like no common thread throughout these storylines, just kind of comes and goes. Like that was pretty consistent for WWE storytelling under Vince McMahon. So he just like when he has a good story, they do knock it out of the park, but there is a lot of like crap you got to tread through in between. So I can't just say that it was one specific period if we're being honest. But yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Comical betrayals, I guess you could throw Bailey and Damage Control, making it super obvious about being girls bullies towards the end.
That's true. And it was another instance of like that thing I mentioned with like the evolution thing where like Io Sky, I mean, I guess she speaking in Japanese at one point. I mean, well, no, in that instance, she was speaking English in that specific segment, and Bailey was like listening in. But there were which was kind of funny when she also brought up in their segments that she was learning, she knows Japanese, and she hears them when they speak about her in between. So that was a little goofy, but I still think I liked that she turned babyface. Nothing I felt like really came out of it because I feel like Bailey right now is in that kind of weird kind of middle, like not going really anywhere for me. Like she was the women's champion and now she's kind of like not doing much. And didn't she just have a segment with Nia Jax where is this a bad blood match if they lose that one of them goes to Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah.
So I think there's like this kind of creative shakeup that they're doing with that. So there will be an obvious loss there and shaking up of the show. But yeah, I agree with that. I think that is a betrayal that didn't work out or pan out as well as I think they wanted to. But yeah, that's a wrap for this episode of the Chi-Town Shoot podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave your feedback. Tune in next time for more wrestling madness. Until then, keep marking out.